7 million migrants had registered with GPs in this country, and that excludes Scotland. So if you add Scotland in, the number would be even more. Now, the astonishing thing is that NHS Digital can't, despite all the billions we've spent on computer programs and systems within the NHS over the last 25 years, they can't tell us whether double counting is in these numbers. Alp Mehmet from Migration Watch, the chairman, joins me. I mean, 7 million. It can't be that. This can't be right, can it?
We may have undercounted, I'm not sure. But yes, absolutely it's right. And we've been pointing to it for some years now.
7 million individuals?
7 million individuals, immigrants, have actually registered for GPs up and down the country. Yes, indeed.
So, but there must be some double counting in this. Presumably if somebody moves to Barnet and then moves to Wolverhampton, that might be a double.
No, absolutely. And it's inevitable that there will be double counting. But when you're talking about 7 million, whatever double counting there is going to be minimal, frankly, compared to the overall figure.
Do we have a clue how many people are actually in this country?
No, we haven't actually. And if you remember, when we were involved in the EU settlement scheme, we were told that there would be 3.7 million.
And it turned out?
How many did it turn out to be? Over 6 million.
Yeah.
So, no, we don't know for sure. We used to rely on the census every 10 years to give us an indication as to what was really going on. Each time we found that the numbers were actually higher than the ONS had been, the Office of National Statistics had been telling us. And I'm absolutely certain that the figures that we've heard already, if anything, are undercounting what is really going on.
And it's certainly worth talking about because access to GP services is something that is really exercising people all over the country. Is it any wonder we've got problems? You know,
on that point, Nigel, it's not just the numbers coming in to put the additional pressure on, but the government has also, their record is lamentable in the numbers that have been trained. Do you know that 28,700 applications went in for medical studies for youngsters who want to become doctors for 9,000 places. That's why there's a shortage. There are 1,343 doctors, fewer doctors now than there were in 2017.
Yeah, I saw that. I know. Why? And despite all the promises to ramp up numbers, no, it's a problem at both ends of this. Quick thoughts on Rwanda. All sorts of briefings and counter briefings in the newspapers. Some suggestions that flights may begin before the end of this month. Others suggesting there are up to 6 legal cases pending. Where do you think we are?
I think that we are where anyone with any sense would have expected us to be honest. I think those who thought that Rwanda was the answer were, frankly, delusional. It's not the answer, but it's part of the answer. So long as the government is determined actually to make use of that route and start flying people to Rwanda, along with some of the other things that they said they were going to do, like holding on to people in centres while their cases are being, those who are not being flown to Rwanda. So long as they do that sort of thing, and dare I say, we're serious with the French and the EU about them tackling the problem at their end, all these things, I'm afraid, hooey.
Yeah, and we are now already at the 2020 number, roughly, aren't we? About 8,000 or so have come across the channel already.
Yeah, absolutely. 7,743 to be precise, of those that we know about. And I'm sure that there are those that we don't know about as well. So by the weekend, it'll be 8,000, i.e. the whole number, the total that came in 2020.
And legal immigration. The government has, well, I talk about a points-based system, but they've opened the doors in a way to even larger numbers than perhaps were even coming in Tony Blair's time.
Absolutely. And I think if they'd adopted your points-based system, the way the Australian points-based system, then we would have had some hope. But in fact, all they did was loosen, just weaken the whole system, and partly pressed by business that they would bring in the sort of lower skill, lower pay individuals that business is after. And that's what's happened. We heard 890,000 coming in 2021.
Yeah.
800 for long-term visas of one form or another. 890,000.
And student visas were part of that number, of course, weren't they?
They were, some 400 and 450,000. But then how many of those students are actually going to be here for 4 or 5 years? How many of them are actually never going to leave anyway? And that's the problem. That's why students are hugely important, because not only they contribute to our needs because they are human beings, they need a home, they see the doctor, they drive around, even students. Of course, there's huge pressure coming from students as well. And I don't know how many, what percentage never leave for what good reasons, I'm sure. But the fact is that as that number goes up, long-term migration also goes up.
Have we taken back control in post-Brexit Britain of our borders and our immigration system?
Have we? No, we haven't taken control. But not only that, but the Prime Minister promised us that he would reduce immigration, that the points-based system, he said, that we introduce will not only control, but it will reduce. It's had the opposite effect. That's scandalous.
Alp Mehmet, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on GB News. Not that it was a particularly happy story, but it's the truth, and that's what we're here to talk about.